Welcome to this week's episode of The Lorraine Murphy Show. I am so thrilled to have my guest on the show with me today because I love her story and I think you are going to love it too when you hear it. She is a very dear friend and her name is Yasemin Trollope. Welcome to the show.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Oh, it's so good to have you. So, my dear, the reason I wanted to ask you on the show, if you remember, you and I went for a walk on the Gold Coast. You're obviously living in the Gold Coast. I went for a walk with you and you were filling me in on all the happenings in your business. And I just thought, like, this is such a cool story. And I remember as we were leaving, I was like, can I get you on the show? And it's just taken us a while to get in this seat together. So I'm so thrilled to have you. And the reason, lots of reasons I want to share your story with listeners today, but one of the reasons is that I just love the pivot that you made, you know, to move from one industry that you were working within to really blazing your own trail in a completely different industry.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk all things pivots, backing yourself, trusting the path that you're on today. I think it's going to be such an inspiring story in that sense.
Thank you.
So would you mind giving everyone a background of, I guess, the industry you were in and then the industry that you then stepped into?
Sure. So I started in the beauty industry. I was a beauty editor. My first job out of uni was the beauty editor at Marie Claire. And at the time, like, I didn't even really realize what a massive thing that was.
It was such a big deal.
It was such a big deal. I literally just fell into it. Like, I studied journalism and I found myself as a beauty editor at Marie Claire. And from there, I was beauty editor of Famous. Then I went and launched primp.com.au with Zoe Foster. So I worked in media, predominantly starting in the beauty print space. And then over time, my role kind of just evolved, or I evolved with it, and I expanded into wellness. I then kind of saw, when I first started in beauty as well, like, print media was the thing.
It was the thing. And I should also say, you know, my background was PR and I was working in a PR agency. And you were one of the beauty editors that we were like love bombing on a weekly basis. And you were everything, you know, bloggers, influencers. And, you know, it might be interesting for those listening who maybe are a bit younger than us, but print media, I mean, we used to launch 6 months ahead of schedule so we could get into the long lead media. You were gods, like goddesses.
We are, and I think for context, this is like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago, but I did, over the course of my kind of 10 years in the beauty space, I noticed the change. Obviously, influencers started to come into play. Digital media started to come into play. And I remember when I went into print, when I went from print to digital and we went and started to launch print, it was this huge deal.
Yes.
And people are like, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like, why? This is such a huge leap. But I knew in my gut that this is the direction that it was heading, and this is something that was so exciting. It was like the new frontier. And I think that's always been a part of my story, is like really being able to trust my intuition and know that even when everyone else is like, this is crazy, what are you doing? You're leaving the safety of print, which at that time it really did like seem like the safe space.
Yeah, it's
to go into the unknown. To go into the unknown, it just felt right. And so as that evolved, I also started to write about like health and wellness. I had a blog, The Happiness Cocktail.
I loved your blog, yes.
And it actually became quite popular, but it was just like me talking about what I was eating and what I was doing. Again, it was kind of at the beginning of that wellness time of like people kind of exploring more about their health and well-being. And then I ventured into PR. I mean, I just kept evolving, but at that time it was predominantly in media, health, wellness, and beauty. Then my husband and I sold everything that we owned and moved to America to start a business. At that time, it was in fast casual food. Like, it was again going to be a massive pivot. But when we got to America with a 10-month-old and a 3-year-old, it took my husband only a couple of days to be like, I think we've made a massive mistake.
After selling your entire life, selling your house?
Selling our house.
Oh, yes.
Selling all our possessions. We had 4 suitcases, 2 babies, and...
Oh my God, you want to murder him.
I really did. The thought crossed my mind.
But also, if you're suspecting that maybe he's right, it hurts. It hurts even more.
I know. Yeah. And I think at first I was just like, no way, we've come this far, like we are doing this. And then after a few weeks of us really doing more due diligence and realizing what was ahead of us, I succumbed and was like, you know what? You're right. you're right, this isn't the pivot that we need. I think in retrospect, we were really seeking adventure.
Yes.
And we probably just could have gone on like a holiday to Bali or something. But me being me, I just went
Committed.
all in. Yeah, so committed. But you know what? We used that time to really kind of strip away. Like we literally stripped away our whole lives. And while I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, it did give us the opportunity, and me specifically the opportunity, to really think about, okay, well, what do I want to do? What are my skills? Where do I want to make a difference? I knew that beauty and what I had been doing wasn't lighting me up anymore. I knew that I was seeking more purpose. And that's how it came to be that I am now the owner of Rite of Passage Funerals, a boutique funeral service based on the Gold Coast. And we create really beautiful, meaningful farewells and funerals for families. And it was in America that I started to nurture this idea and
Wow.
kind of start to bring this vision of modern, meaningful death care to life. And that's where I am now.
Full body goosebumps. So a snapshot of the business now. So how old is Rite of Passage now?
I launched in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've expanded to other parts of the business as well. Can you explain what they are?
So initially it was Rite of Passage Funerals is my core business, and that's something that I have kind of brought to life all on my own. After a few years, though, I started to realize, firstly, funerals, I would meet with families to plan the funeral, and they would say to me, we really want you to do the ceremony as well. Like, we love you, we connect with you, can you oversee the ceremony? And I think my background in media, I also did a lot of TV, I wrote a lot, so it wasn't too much of a step for me to start writing and presenting the ceremonies at funerals as well. And so I realized through my journey that there was such a massive lack in training for funeral celebrants and funeral directors. So in 2021, I co-launched the Funeral Fix with my business partner, Oliver. And that is a really beautiful, modern, kind of heart-led training platform that trains people who want to step into funeral celebrancy. And we recently this year launched funeral director training as well, which didn't exist. So this is all the lessons that I have learned since 2018 until now. There is so much to learn when you want to become a funeral director, and it's the course that I wish that I'd had at the beginning. So we train people, we have online courses, in-person events. It's so beautiful. So that is the Funeral Fix has kind of grown from Rite of Passage. And then we also have the Earn Collective, which is our B2B and B2C online store that sells beautiful curated cremation urns and eco-memorial products. So
Look at you. From lipstick to this.
I
It's
know.
amazing. Where did the actual, I know that you said it was an idea that you nurtured while you were on that, what was it, sabbatical to the States.
Yeah.
Where did the idea actually come from? Did you have a specific experience with a loved one yourself? Did you, I don't know, read an article about this space? Where did it actually come from? Do you remember the day it dropped in?
I do. I really do. So the seed was planted in 2012. So yeah, around about then. My mum was diagnosed with cancer and she'd started her radiotherapy treatment. My mum, for those who don't know, is like the most vivacious, full of life, amazing person, but she had very treatable cancer, had started her radio treatment and then was starting chemo. Within 24 hours of her starting her chemo treatment, she was in ICU with multi-organ failure. Her brain, her heart, her liver, kidney, everything was just shutting down.
As a reaction to the radiotherapy?
As a reaction, she had a 1 in 70,000 or something
Oh, my
allergic
Lord.
reaction to chemo.
Wow.
And when I so vividly, I still remember this, the doctor, we were all in complete shock. Like it happened so quickly. And the ICU doctor kind of pulled me and my dad and my sister aside and said, it really is touch and go. You know, we're treating each organ individually and it just depends on how her body responds to this, of whether she lives or dies. And I just remember feeling in that moment how unprepared we all were. We come, like so many, I'm sure there's so many listeners who are the same. We come from a family that never talked about death. In fact, to me, my parents were completely invincible. And I couldn't fathom that my parents would die, firstly. And then, if so, obviously, in that moment, I'm just processing the news. But over the next few days, I started to think, well, if mum dies, like what is a funeral that's available for her? And back then, like the space has come a long way since I launched Rite of Passage, but back then it was still very conventional funerals, and finding something really personalized and beautiful it was like that. Why doesn't that exist? So that's when the seed was planted. But obviously I didn't build on that until some time. And then cut to America a few years later, we have all this time and this space to really think about what we want to do with our lives. And I remember I went upstairs to have a nap, and my mother-in-law subscribes to The Economist. So I was just reading an article in The Economist, and it was how crematoriums in Europe were changing the way that they are operated. They get architects to come in and redesign them to make them beautiful, to really help people kind of really reframe and rethink their approach to death, and that it's maybe not so dark and morbid, that it inevitably happens to all of us, and it can be like really beautiful. It can be a thing of beauty and art if you allow it. And I was lying in bed and I had a full body download. Like, I have never experienced anything like it to date. Every cell in my body, like, I still get goosebumps talking about it. Every cell in my body came alive. It was this full download from my guides, from all of the things saying, this is your purpose. This is the direction that you need to go in, and you need to follow this path. Like, it's never have I believed something to be so true in my whole life. And I remember going downstairs and saying to Alex, I have my idea. I'm like, oh my God, I know what I want to do when we get back to Australia. I'm going to become a funeral director. And he's just looking at me like, what were you just smoking upstairs? Like, what the hell just happened? I am so confused. I was like, no, this is it. This is the thing. I've just never believed anything to be as true as this moment. And I'm pretty sure he thought I was crazy. And I'm pretty sure most people that I told initially thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Now they know I'm not.
Such a great story. Well, I remember talking to the Gold Coast, Wade and I, and the kid, well, it was just Lexi then, went to see you. And I said, so what are you working on? Like, what's your plan? And I just assumed you were going to say, oh, I'm freelancing or I'm starting a beauty website. And you said, oh, I'm a funeral director. And I think I was one of those people going, what?
Yeah, get that a lot. I still get that when I tell people what I do.
But also, if I think about like what I think traditionally what a funeral director looks like, they're old, male, fat. They're wearing a black tie, black suit, white shirt. Like, you don't look it, which I love, because you're really challenging what the kind of the stereotype is.
Yeah, and I still get that. I think, like, when I walk into like a family home and I meet my clients for the first time, so often I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't look like what we thought you'd look like. And I love that. I really love that.
So good. So how have you dealt with dealing with other people's perspectives? And obviously you shared Alex, your husband's, as a perfect example, looking at you like, what were you smoking? How have you, I guess, and I think this is something that comes up for a lot of us. I know for me, when I said I was leaving my very successful, very, inverted commas, safe PR job.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, I remember one guy saying to me on my last day, so what happens when the business doesn't work out? Will you just come back and ask for your job again? And I looked at him and go, of course not. Like, this is going to be a raging success. So, no matter whether it's personal or it's business, we have to deal with other people's opinions a lot. How did you navigate that? Because I would imagine, like, our husbands are probably going to be the first to the party of going, yeah, you do you, I got you. How have you dealt with, I guess, less close people to you and dealing with their opinions of what you were doing?
Yeah.
Particularly in the early days when the idea is still very, it's very nascent. It's still open to be molded. So you kind of, I'll always say to mentees, if you do have a business idea, like, just be very careful about who you share it with. Not because people are going to rip off your idea, but it's just so embryonic, and there's so much that can shift and change around your mindset towards it. So we need to protect it, if that makes sense.
Oh,
How have you
definitely.
navigated that?
I think in the early days I did exactly that. Like, I kind of just kept it to myself a little bit while the idea was incubating, while I was learning. And I think a really important point for anyone who is looking to make such a drastic pivot as well is it's like there is so much to learn. Like, I didn't know anything about this industry. I didn't know how to plan a funeral. And so I had to learn those skills, and I had to, seek out people who could help me learn the things that I needed to learn without kind of wasting my energy on naysayers or people who are like, what are you doing? You have no idea what you're talking about. And so I had to like really strategically find people who understood what I was trying to achieve and could really help nurture that. And it wasn't until I built the confidence within myself and I was able to say, you know what, I am actually good at this. And that would come with experience. Each funeral that I did and each family that trusted me with their person, I feel like I just grew more and more in my confidence. And I think also just really believing, like, I know that this is such a beautiful offering. And I think I know the intention behind this business. So I think if you can hold on to that and believe in yourself and believe in your idea and the intention behind it, then it helps carry you through those moments of doubt or when people are questioning what you're doing.
Yeah. Did you have any experiences of losing your identity? Because, you know, as we talked about earlier on in our conversation, you as a magazine or a beauty editor, like you were.
Yeah.
It was cred. You know, it was cred. You had serious sway doing what you did. So did anything come up for you around the identity shift of moving from, I guess, you know, the glamorous, fast-moving, exciting, sexy world of beauty to maybe the not-so-sexy world of death? Was there an identity that needed to be shed in order for you to step fully into this?
Sorry. There was a definite identity shift. And I think that came in so many ways. Like, I had a dark night of the soul because I not only changed industries, I changed cities. I had no community on the Gold Coast. Once we decided we didn't want to stay in America, we decided to settle on the Gold Coast where we knew not one person. So there was this huge identity change of being in this glamorous industry, knowing so many people in Sydney, all our family, all our friends are here, to being an absolute no one on the Gold Coast in an industry where I didn't know anyone and didn't really know what I was doing.
Yes.
And it was really hard at first. Like, there was a lot of struggle, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of wondering, like, what the hell have I done? Why are we here? Who am I? My kids were still quite young at that stage as well.
Tiny,
And so I think it's also like discovering yourself as a mother and as a woman, and the person I knew back then was not who I am now. And like, it's taken me quite a few years to really rebuild that.
Yeah.
But through that journey, I think I've come out a more authentic me.
Yeah.
And
An actualized version of you.
Yeah.
And what were the specific tools or practices that you used, or was it just pushing through and just allowing time to help you find that new identity?
I think it was a bit of both.
Yeah.
I also do To Be Magnetic, which is like a really beautiful kind of manifestation practice that there's lots of workshops and stuff. I think it was a lot of like diving into my inner child, lots of like self-development work. I think also during the time, there have been times that I've also had paid employment. And at first there was a lot of shame around that, especially in the early days of the business. And I think it's really important to share this.
Yeah, please do.
Because there were times when I would really beat myself up. Like, the business should be at a different place to where it is now, or I should be able, like, it should be providing enough income for us to, you know, be able to do whatever. And it wasn't back then. And I had a lot of shame around then having paid employment and running the businesses that It's a Funeral came in, and building my contractors and building my team so that I didn't have to physically be at every service. And I've come to realize, actually, by having financial diversification and not making money necessarily like the primary objective, it's allowed me to come back to my why. Because what was happening is I was getting lost in the financials and kind of forgetting about, why am I doing this? Like, why this business is about being able to support people and hold people. And yes, it is a for-profit business, but ultimately I am helping people at a really beautiful, vulnerable time in their life and creating beauty in that. And that's what this is about. If suddenly it was becoming about not making the money that I needed, it was taking the magic out of it a little bit. And what I found, of course, is then going back into paid employment and taking the financial pressure off the business, it would grow again. It was just a total energy shift. But I think it's really important for people to realize that it's okay to have financial diversification if it's for the right reasons, and there's no shame around that. And I learnt things in those roles. I was in like marketing roles, and I learnt things that I could then take into the business and can help it grow even more. And now it's like beautifully supporting us, and it's just all part of the journey.
Yeah. I love that you spoke into that, because the pressure that we can put ourselves under to make this business a success, and then comparing ourselves with our friend down the street who, oh, well, they're managing to support themselves from day one and they've paid themselves a salary from day one. Like, just puts so much pressure on us.
It does.
And I think you're right. If it's paid employment or part-time employment or contract or whatever it looks like in the early days, that helps you sleep at night and helps you have that peace of mind. And like you say, it takes the pressure off the business.
Yeah.
And you make decisions from a place of what's best for the business, rather than, okay, how do I switch on my cash for this month so I can buy bread and milk for the table.
Yeah, it's like it's such an energetic shift. I love that you spoke
into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's really powerful. What were the biggest obstacles that you faced in growing these 3 businesses? So obviously went into an industry that you knew sweet F all about. Lot to learn there. Yeah. Any other obstacles that you didn't expect going in?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely just the steep learning curve. I think that when you have such a drastic pivot, in my previous role, I knew people. Like, I had the community there, I had the contacts there, and I knew what I was doing. So by the end of my career in media, I was a freelancer, and like huge contracts would just come my way. I didn't really even have to do anything.
Yeah.
People would just be, I was so magnetic, and I was just, it came very easily. So I think when you pivot and you're starting from scratch again and you're learning, it's like quite hard to be like, oh, now I have to, how do I even do this? I don't know how to do this. And I think also the nature of the business I'm in, people don't want to talk about funerals. It's not like I'm selling something that's shiny and beautiful that everyone is like
not
coveting.
Lip gloss.
No, people don't want to talk about death. They don't even want to really think about death. Yeah. And so when your offering is something that is so challenging to market, that is an obstacle, but it's also an opportunity, because I've been able to turn that around and do things really differently, especially in the funeral space, in terms of like really beautiful free offerings and just like constantly giving back and nurturing that almost education piece, so that people, it's like softening what we're talking about, because the reality is it's inevitable. Everyone is going to have to experience death at some stage or another for a loved one, for all different circumstances in their lives. And so being able to help people through that is such an honor.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of those there's also been my own obstacles, my own inner, my low self-worth at times. I grew up in a family, my parents had like a very successful business, but they were very busy. They fought a lot about the financials of the business. There were times as a little child where I probably needed my mom, but she wasn't able to physically be there for me because they had retail stores. So she had to, and I understand that as an adult, but as a little girl, it's really hard. So one of the things I'm actually working through at the moment, as I want to take the business to the next level, is what I've fundamentally come to realize in my subconscious is that I think that having a really successful business is unsafe because of that early childhood programming.
Yes.
And so coming to that realization, it's like, oh my gosh, like I've been playing smaller than I should have been because of this. And now I'm in the process of like reprogramming that and understanding, for you, Lorraine, seeing you're such an expander for me, and seeing that you can be a mom and have like these really beautiful, wonderful expanded businesses, and it is safe and it's amazing, and I can help more people and make more of an impact. And so obviously there's my own mindset as well as all of the other logistical things that go on. It's been a ride.
As if it wasn't hard enough, we've then got to deal with ourselves.
I know.
For God's sake.
I'm all in the way.
Who did you find, and you don't have to name names necessarily, but who did you find was the most judgmental or most critical or most disbelieving that you were going to make this shift?
I'm lucky that I think like my core family and friends, they know me well enough. Like I've always been I've always followed my instincts, definitely. And I've always just done things that might seem like totally left field from such a young age. Yeah. But when I put my mind to something, I follow through.
So when you decided to be a funeral director, your parents were just like, oh, it's Yas.
Yeah.
It's her next thing.
And they're like, oh, yeah, this tracks. This totally tracks. And my friends were the same. Like all my closest friends were like, oh, yeah, here she goes again. Amazing. Like we're here for you. So I think that I'm really lucky with that. I think it's probably been myself. I think you know, I'm sure maybe people quietly outside of my circle, maybe they didn't say it to my face directly, but I'm sure a lot of people are like, what the hell is this chick doing? But I think ultimately, probably I've been my own biggest critic in some ways. While I've always believed in the idea, it's whether, you know, can I do what I'm setting out to do? And I have done that. So I'm very proud of myself.
You really have. And you should be so proud. It's incredible.
Thank you.
What has kept you anchored? So you mentioned the why, like remembering why you're doing it. Is there anything else that's really acted as an anchor for you to, you know, I talk so much about, but my mentees, one of them got on a session. She's like, I'm having an existential crisis. She got on a mentoring session one day. I don't even know if I want this business anymore. And she's like, so drama.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, you're like the third mentee who said that to me this week.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's such a roller coaster. So I'd really love to understand, particularly given that, you know, you're facing so much internal resistance, you're facing the external resistance of a new industry, new geographical location. What are they, again, coming back to those tools, or whether it's a motto, or what do you do to bring yourself back?
Well, honestly, I think it's my clients.
Yeah.
So much of the time, like the reviews that they write or the emails they send me, or just like seeing them on the day, being able to hold them, like the work itself is so, like I feel so grateful every day that I get to do this, and I get to like really hold people and help them through the hardest time in their life. Like that is such an honor and such a privilege. And I think that truly that is the piece that it's like none of the other noise matters at the end of the day, being able to make an impact, even the tiniest ways. And I help people with that, from babies through to elderly. And it's like being able to support these people through real hardship is the thing that keeps me coming back time and time again, because I know I'm really good at it, and I know I'm helping people, which is amazing.
Oh,
it's so good.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
such a beautiful response.
Wow.
Tell me, if someone is listening to this right now and they're looking to pivot, whether they're in a career and they're looking to switch careers, or they're in a business and they're looking to switch up their revenue streams, or they're in a business, they're like, screw this, I'm going back to the 9 to 5, whatever it looks like.
Yes.
What would you say to someone now who's sitting in the middle of the pivot and trying to get really clear, almost like feeling they're at a crossroads?
Yeah.
And they want to know how to move forward? What would you say to them? Because you've actually performed quite a few pivots,
Yes.
it seems. More than I knew you had. What would you say to someone who's in it right now, who's right in that pivot right now?
I think just really get very clear on what you want to do. I think listen to your intuition. I think as women specifically, we have this innate power to really connect with ourselves.
Yes.
And I think we need to learn to trust that more. You know, really trust that we know what is good for us, and really believe in yourself. If this is a whole body yes for you, then trust that it is the right thing for you, and then make the necessary changes and steps, even if it's small little things every single day. Take that action to get to where you're going. You don't have to jump off the cliff like I did and kind of hope the parachute opens. You can take necessary steps to get to where you want to be, even if it is, and say if it is, say, changing industries. Learn the things that you need to learn. Really start nurturing your environment. Even if you start like connecting with your community and tell them, you know, this is something that I'm thinking about doing, and kind of letting people know that this is the direction that you're heading in and that you want to head in, and start paving your own path, because it is achievable. And if it's going to light you up, I know better than anyone now, like life is such a gift, and don't waste time.
Oh, yes. That's so powerful. Thank you. And any other, so do you have anything to add then as well? If someone is, I just want to touch back on something you shared early on in our conversation. If someone has made the pivot and they're like, fuck,
why isn't it going to plan?
This isn't working. I'm 2 days in. But and you know, when you had that sense of dread, I mean, I had it. We've tried to move out of Sydney twice, as you know, and it has not worked out well.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who maybe is in the pivot right now? They're implementing on the pivot, but they're realizing that actually the pivot probably isn't for them.
Yes.
Or not necessarily that it's been a mistake, but it's not their path, essentially.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who maybe, particularly given your experience in the US, of maybe unpicking the pivot, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think just really giving yourself permission to change your mind. You know, I remember people, when we came back from America, people were like, that's so brave of you to come back. And I was like, why? Like, it was almost like they were surprised that we'd gone, because obviously we'd announced to the world we'd bought a house. It was like this
Farewell
huge
parties.
thing. And they were like, oh, actually, we're coming back. But I never really felt that. Like, I think we also, I don't know if it's because now I work so closely with death and it's like makes you kind of not sweat the small stuff so much. But I think sometimes our journeys and our paths, it's not a straight line. And so there's something maybe bigger at play that is putting you on your path. Had we not moved to America, I really don't think that I would be doing the work that I'm doing now. And so that was the thing that got me to where I am now. And so I think if you've made the pivot and you're like, oh, whoops, this is probably not what I thought it was going to be, just realize you can change your mind, and it is getting you to where you want to be. And it's a long road. We have a lifetime ahead of us. So it's, you know, just follow your intuition, trust your gut, do the work, and just take those small steps every single day to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. Love. Such wise advice. Thank you.
What's
the future of the businesses? Where to from here with them?
I think for me this year, my primary strategy with Rite of Passage in particular is growth. That's what I really want to focus on. I've got a beautiful team around me. I've built all the systems. And now I think working through that subconscious belief of like, I'm absolutely ready to help more people and take it to the next level. That may mean expanding down to Sydney as well. I already come down here. I've had the privilege of helping quite a few friends send off their people because, as I said, so many friends and family are here as well. So expanding into Sydney. With Funeral Fix, we've just launched the funeral director training, so growing that. We have an in-person event in June, which I love because we kind of bring those online courses to life. Like, it's so nice. You know what it's like connecting with people in person. Yeah. So those two businesses are really about growth. And then Earn Collective, we are actually, we're kind of at a bit of a crossroads with that business. So I'm not sure. I'll keep you posted on that one. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me.
As I said at the very outset, this was such an epic pivot that, you know, even if someone attempted to pivot 50% of what you did, just for you to be sitting here glowing with happiness and pride in yourself, you know, that's the beautiful thing. I always say to the kids, like, I'm so proud of you. But are you proud of yourself? And what I'm so getting from you today is you're so proud of yourself for doing and backing yourself, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's such a story in self-trust and allowing yourself to have the big idea, but then allowing yourself to pursue it as well, regardless of the resistance that comes, whether it's internally or externally.
Yeah.
So I'm so proud of you. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much and bringing all your gifts to all the amazing people that I'm sure you help. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.